Today we're taking a look at a true legend from the late 1980s, the Nikon F4. I picked up this F4 on a recent trip to Japan and I was really excited to find one in such good condition, especially considering this is kind of an icon of my childhood. This was Nikon's first professional autofocus SLR, and it bridged the gap between the fully mechanical cameras that came before it and the modern autofocus systems that we take for granted today. Released in 1988, the F4 replaced the F3 as Nikon's flagship professional SLR. Designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, who also designed cars for BMW and Ferrari, the F4 had this bold and new and modern, futuristic kind of look to it, and it quickly became the workhorse for photojournalists and sports shooters and magazine shooters all over the world. The first thing you'll notice is the build. This thing is a tank. All metal construction, weather sealed. You could swap out viewfinders, focusing screens, motor drives, just depending on your needs. This camera is extremely heavy by today's standards, but for me, that's kind of confidence inspiring. I like it. It feels purposeful in your hands. It feels weighty and well built and like it was designed to survive a war zone. And to be frank, many of them did. What made the F4 groundbreaking was its electronics. The first truly usable autofocus system in a pro body combined with comprehensive metering. You got shutter speeds up to 1/8,000th of a second and flash seeing speeds up to 1/250th of a second. All that with a built-in motor drive capable of 5.7 frames per second with the MB21 grip. For a late 80s camera, that was blazing fast. Now, is it practical to shoot the F4 in 2025? I say absolutely. It takes nearly every f-mount lens from 1959 to the early 2000s. The autofocus feels slow, and frankly it is slow, especially compared to modern digital cameras, but it's still plenty fast for landscapes, portraits, street photography, and any slower paced action. On top of that, the metering system is excellent, and the sound of this camera, it's kind of addictive. As for downsides, the main ones are size and weight. With a grip and a big lens on this thing is massive and it is extremely heavy. Batteries aren't an issue. It runs on standard AA's, but don't expect modern burst speeds or autofocus tracking. If you're looking for something small and compact and comfortable to carry every day, the F4 probably isn't it. The F4 is a milestone camera and has a very special place in my heart, which is probably why I own two of them now. It was the first pro autofocus SLR from Nikon, the last one to have a knob and dial interface before buttons and menus took over on its successor, the F5. And it remains one of the most versatile film cameras you can buy. All right, so I thought it would be helpful to do a little bit of an overview of this camera and its controls. I won't go super deep into the modes and functions. If there's a desire for a video like that, I would be happy to make one, but I'll try to keep this kind of brief. So this F4 is the one I purchased on my most recent trip to Japan. I bought it from Lemon Camera in Akihabara. And I'm super happy with this. This one does come with the MB21 grip, and to kind of give you guys a little bit of a size comparison, here's my original F4 on the right, and you can kind of see how much mass that adds to the camera. But the MB21 does offer a few features that I really enjoy. One of them is that it just kind of gives me more purchase. So it's an easier grip for me to hold. I have really big hands, and it just gives me more camera to hold on to. I feel more confident hanging onto it. And then one thing I really like is that it gives you a vertical shutter release button. So if I want to take a portrait-oriented photo, I have a button on the right side of the camera, which then becomes the top to release the shutter with. So I like that very much. Yeah, so I'll kind of just go sort of right to left, top to bottom, and just go over the controls real quick. So you've got your film advanced mode selector here. Right now it's unlocked. There's not really an on or off for this camera. It's either locked and the electronics kind of go to sleep, which prevent you from actuating the shutter or anything like that. And then we've got, single shot, continuous high, continuous low, CS, which I think is like continuous slow. I can't really remember. I never use that mode. And then 10-second self-timer. And then you've got your exposure settings or your exposure mode settings here. Most of the time for me, it's either on manual or automatic. I think automatic is fantastic on this camera. The F4 does an amazing job metering a scene and exposing everything correctly if you leave it on auto. You've got your exposure compensation dial here. Again, I don't typically use this. You have a little lock button here so you can't accidentally knock it one way or another, which is a nice touch. You've got your shutter speed dial. Pretty standard. One thing I like about this is that it's like very tall and bulky, and it's easy to get your hands or your fingers on to move. I've read that the reason Nikon chose to maintain kind of that function and the size of this dial so that it's easy to work with gloves on, and I could totally see that. And I don't think I've worn gloves while I've been working with this camera, but I could definitely understand that. We've got the multiple exposure switch here, which I never really use. You've got your frame counter window. I've got some tape here that apparently, or like some residue that I need to scrape off. Oh, and also the exposure, the film advance mode is locked with this little button. So you have to push this little button right here, and then you can spin the dial. That's kind of a theme for a lot of the controls on this camera. Okay, let's see. Over on the left side, we've got your ISO dial, and then there's another little lock button here. So it's easier if you do this with two hands. So you push down the button, and then you can spin the dial to select your ISO. It also has just an DX mode, so that the camera will, as long as your film cartridge has a DX code on it, the camera will read that and then properly automatically set the ISO. I usually just set it manually because that's what I'm used to. And then that's if I'm going to push or pull film, that's how I do it. I don't think I've ever done it with the exposure compensation wheel. I always do it by setting the ISO. Let's see, you've got a little switch here that you have to push to the side and pull up to get the little, I can't even remember what you call this, little post to pop open the back of the camera to load the film, or to get to the back to load the film. One thing that's really cool about the F4 is that you can just drop a roll of film in here and kind of like pull up. I'll do that at the end, but you can drop a roll of film in and just pull it to the side and kind of just like, it's a very fast thing. Like, you don't really have to slot the film in a little like slot on the receiving wheel. You can kind of just like lay it over the top, shut the back, and then it'll automatically load, which is really cool. Let's see, we've got the, what else do I want to cover here? You do have a little manual crank, which I don't think you really need, because you've got an automatic film rewind system in this. So I guess if that failed for some reason, but to automatically to mechanically, I don't want to say this, rewind the film into the cartridge using the film rewind motor, you toggle this R1, which you have to push the button for, and then bring the lever over. And then you toggle the R2 in a similar way. So you push the button in and then bring the lever over, and then it rewinds the film. It's a nice little fail-safe so that you don't accidentally rewind your film back when you don't intend to by hitting a button or something like that. Let's see, what else? Let's go around to the front. All right, so a few basic controls here. You've got the, oh man, I can't remember what this is called, but it's the button you push to preview your depth of field. So a depth of field preview button. And then you can also lock that on with the lever if needed. You've got your autofocus lock, which I use pretty often. So that's, if you focus on something and you don't want to, you don't want your focus to change again, if you don't want autofocus to kick on again, you can hold that button down after you focus and it'll lock that in, and then it won't focus again if you're going to like move kind of off target or something like that. You've got your auto exposure lock. So again, it does kind of the same thing. If you're using on automatic, you can expose for a part of your scene and then shift to the side if you need to. And as long as you're holding that down, it'll maintain the exposure settings from your original reading. You've got your lens release button here. So you push that down and you can take the lens off. And then you've got your focusing modes here. So you've got continuous focus, single, and manual. And then when you switch to manual, it disengages the kind of focusing motor, so it's a lot easier to turn the focusing ring and dial in your focus that way. Let's see, what else here? On the viewfinder, you've got some basic controls. You've got the diopter adjustment, so you can change the focus, I guess, of the diopter, so to your eye, to fit your eye. You've got your metering mode switch here. So right now I just have it on, like matrix metering, the full scene. But you can do spot metering and you can do center weighted as well. Let's see, you've got your exposure compensation window here, I think. Actually, I don't totally remember how that functions. I gotta look into that. Yeah, and then on the back, you've got, with the MB21 grip, you get a little window to read your battery levels, which is kind of cool. But I mean, to be honest, I don't think I've ever changed the batteries in my original one. I think they're still the ones I put in there years ago. It doesn't really use a lot of power. Oh, one important thing that I wanted to cover, there's right here, I don't know how well that's gonna focus. There's another little switch, and that's kind of a cool, important one that I didn't realize was there for quite a while. And if you switch that on, it's gonna be hard for me to show you, but it actually illuminates the readings that you have in your viewfinder. Normally, if you're shooting outside and there's good daylight, there's no problem reading the things in there, or the settings that are displayed on the LCDs in the viewfinder. There's a function where daylight is kind of used to illuminate those. But if it's darker or at night or you're inside, you can flip that switch and then you get a green illumination on your LCDs, which is pretty cool. And then also this switch here on the back of the viewfinder actuates a cover that closes the viewfinder. People have asked me what the point of that is, and to be honest, I don't use it very often, but when I do use it, I use it because I'm doing a long exposure. And then when you close this, it prevents any kind of light leak coming in from the viewfinder that would affect the final image. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a neat little touch. Let's see, what else? You've got a port down here, and this isn't part of the MB21, this is just on the camera. You've got a port down here to screw on a remote shutter release, so a cable release. Yeah, you've got similar, you've got an independent lock button on the vertical shutter release on the MB21, so that if you don't want this button to function, like if you want your camera on, so it's on like single, and it's ready to shoot. If you don't want to accidentally hit this, you can flip this switch over, and then this kind of becomes inert, and that won't fire off a shot and advance the film or anything like that. So actually, I probably should just leave that until I'm ready to use it. Let's see, you've got a flash sync port here. Tripod mount. And then what else? I think that's pretty much it. You've got your little battery door here. So there's a couple of, I think two, right? There's, I think, 2 AA's in the grip, and then 3 more in this part of the grip, or in the bottom of the grip, and then 3 more in this part of the grip. Let's see if I can get that back on camera. Oh, come on, don't embarrass me. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think that's just about it. That's a kind of very, very basic, very cursory overview of the controls of the F4. Hopefully that helps give you some idea of what you're dealing with one of these cameras. Again, I think it's beautifully designed. I know there are some people that don't like the way this camera looks. I think it's absolutely incredible. I think it's beautiful. I think it's designed really, really well. It feels like a dream to use, so I'm very happy with it. And then one last thing that I wanted to show was loading some film. So let me actually grab a roll of film here. I forget. Oh, perfect. Okay. So I've got a roll of HP5, fresh out of the freezer or fridge. And then I'm going to go ahead and open the back. And let's see if that'll stay. Okay. And then what I was saying is that this camera is really designed for speed in a lot of ways. So the film goes in, you can lock it down and then pull this across, and then the tail of the film really just like goes like that. I always line up the teeth on the holes in the film, but that should be pretty much it. And then we close it, we make sure it's on single, and then it loads. That's it. Now it's ready to shoot. That's kind of nice because I have some 35mm cameras that are very finicky when loading the film, and this one is not. It's just kind of slap it in, close the door, hit the shutter button, and you're 95% of the time you're good to go. I have had it hang up a couple of times where it doesn't like grab, but that's been pretty few and far between. And then, you know, I'm not shooting anything crazy and critical with this. I'm not, you know, a photojournalist or anything like that. So it's not like I really have to, you know, I have to have that need, but I could see why that would have been a very valuable thing for people in the field when this was the premier working camera for, you know, photojournalists and documentary photographers all over the world. So yeah, anyways, there we go. If you're a film photographer that wants a camera which combines modern metering and vintage charm, we'll say, the F4 is an incredible choice, as long as you don't mind carrying a brick around. Would you shoot with an F4 today? Or do you shoot with an F4 today? Or what film cameras do you shoot with? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.